Alright, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So welcome to another edition of black people breaking their necks to be something other than black, thinking it will elevate them above being black, when in reality, society is still going to treat them like they're black. Why? Because they're black. Bow Wow, aka Shad. Let's just jump right to him. So he got into a little spat on Twitter with basically all of black Twitter, who, by the way, is his biggest supporting demographic. The demographic of people who bought all of his records back in the day, and the demographic who still somewhat buy whatever he puts out now. The demographic who keeps him relevant, the demographic who made sure he always stayed employed, the demographic who keeps him somewhat relevant because in reality, white people have not paid attention to him since 2002. And those were all teenagers. They're all grown now with jobs and they do not care. So he decided to let that demographic know that you cannot marginalize him and put him in the black box because he's more than just black. You know, he's mixed with Native American. So because he's mixed with Native American, he can't identify with the experience of black people in America. And he's not sure what his ancestors in the past were doing because his ancestors were Native American. He didn't want to answer to how he ended up looking like we do, how he ended up looking black, because I can guarantee you that boy is black. But he somehow couldn't relate to the slavery thing because his ancestors didn't come here on oppression cruise lines. They came on the Love Boat. They just came here voluntarily in the 16, 17, and 1800s and settled. You know, they came here for trade and just they created a great life for themselves in this wonderful country called America, and that's his experience, and he's sticking to it. So I saw that nonsense, and I mean, they dragged him onto it. Oh, it was so good. And so rather than him just taking the L and admitting that he's spewing some foolishness and he should have just been quiet, he said, oh no, ego and pride has won this one. So he was going to just keep digging himself deeper into a bigger hole. So he kept going with it, and as people were really kind of letting him know about, you know, history and how things worked out, rather than him just embracing it and shutting up like normal people, he decided, well, let me go ahead and mock your element of blackness and your black empowerment. So he was calling people Sister Soldier and Farrakhan and radical this and radical that, because for him, I guess that made him feel that if he aligned himself with a little bit more anti-blackness, it would just elevate him a bit higher. And in reality, it just made him look stupid. So let's just jump into that. Here's my thing. I think it's beautiful when people are of mixed lineage or mixed heritage and they have a little bit of extra stuff in their bloodlines. Beautiful. Love is wonderful and it makes great things, all that great stuff people always say. Liberal people always say that crap. But the thing about it is, you don't have to repress your blackness in order to feel great about yourself if you are of a mixed heritage, or if you do have additional, you know, ethnicities and races running your bloodline. Wonderful. That's beautiful, but that doesn't mean you have to downgrade and you know, kind of push under the radar what you really are and what you look like, because society responds to what they see, not to some of the things that you all put out. And so it's always kind of a letdown when I see black people cling on to the point 0.00000000000000002% of what they've been told that they also are mixed with, and they use that to be the face of what they would like to identify as. And I always find that so backwards. And we really do that with the whole Native American thing, and I always just find that so hilarious. And the reason why I say that is because, one, when you look at the history books and when you look at the numbers and the documentation, not that many of us really had Native American anything in our bloodline. Not that many of us were indoctrinated into the tribes or brought on into the families and allowed to travel with them. Yes, some of us were enslaved by Native Americans. Some of us were indoctrinated and considered family. Some of us reproduced and became bred and everything like that. But in reality, it's a small fraction. But many of us have been kind of told all of these great West Side Story, cowboy, western narratives and heroicism narratives, so all of us think we got something in us from the Native American tribes. I'm like, it's not all of us. And the thing that I find funny is the Native Americans don't even like us like that. Not to go there, but listen, when they started getting their benefits and everything after the United States did all the terrible things that they did to them, and they started writing out checks, what was the first thing that the majority of these groups did? The first thing they did was disassociate themselves with black people. They were like, okay, look, Cherokee Nation, North Carolina, perfect example. Okay, black people, now I know some of y'all were down with us and all, but listen, it's 40 million of y'all, and we've gotten our checks, and we're not about to split with all 40 million of y'all, so we're going to actually disassociate ourselves with you all, and we're going to remove all of you from the Cherokee Nation registry, so you won't even be a part of it, so you will not be receiving benefits. So they got rid of us like it was nobody's business, and a lot of other tribes did the same thing. And so I find it so hilarious that we always break our necks to align ourselves with that. I'm like, they're not trying to be aligned with us. They don't want to be a part of our struggle the same way we really would not want to experience theirs. And I'm not trying to compare struggles, but it's like both groups have had very terrible experiences in this country. And what I just find so funny is that, you know, they don't really want to vibe with us. They don't want to identify with what we're doing. And so it's like, I need us to stop trying to fall into what their experience is. Because the thing that I feel separates us is, one, black Americans at least have a huge population. That was the one almost, I don't want to say good thing because it's still not good, the one good thing that happened to black Americans in comparison to the Native Americans. The Native Americans unfortunately were wiped out. Not only did they have to lose their country, but they got killed off. It's just y'all ain't in the way, we just gonna kill y'all. Black people, they ain't like us like that, but they needed us. So during slavery, they bred us. We weren't producing fast enough, so they helped out a bit. So and plus, a lot of them had obsessions with black sexuality and obsession with well-endowed black men and well-endowed black women. So they had, they were living out all kind of fantasies, because if you look at sex back in that day, especially with the women, white women were considered virtuous, so they weren't supposed to be having sex. But best believe they were taking a lot of them black male slaves out in the back when Master Boy wasn't watching, having a good time, and there was a whole lot of mixed babies showing up. And then the same thing with the slave masters going and raping the women. So the thing that at least worked in our favor is that today there's still 40 million of us. So there's a little bit of power in numbers with some of the things that we can do in comparison to the Native American communities. Because they're so small and so marginalized, it's harder for them to get their voices heard, even though they got some checks. We ain't getting no check yet, though. But it's always so funny. And then the thing that got me about them cutting us out of their whole little benefit system, there's a bunch of white people living off them benefits, having them a good old time, because there was a wonderful thing called the blood quantum laws. And when that happened, that was basically as they were pushing all the Native Americans out west. It's like, okay, we're going to make a registry of Native Americans, and we're going to register you guys so we know who's who, and we're also going to give you a little tiny piece of land out west so you can stay out of our way. We're going to end up taking it back, though, so don't worry, but we'll let you have it for 10 years to make you think you can start your new lives over out in the desert. You may have lived in the wonderful southeast region of the United States where it's lush and warm and the weather's great, but now we're going to send you out there to Utah and Arizona, Death Valley, 122 degrees. You figure it out from there. And but yeah, so a lot of white people were like, wait a minute, that's free land. So a lot of them started signing on, the ones who were smart enough to figure out how to rig the system. Wait, I'm this, I'm that. So a lot of white people registered in all these little registries, and they today have had children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and then now those offspring are the beneficiaries of a lot of those benefits of the blood quantum laws. And they have land, and they have the rights to a lot of things that Native Americans have. And mind you, they have not a lick of Native anything in them. I mean, their lineage is Norwegian, just straight white, like Norway, Sweden, Copenhagen, stuff like that. And they're just enjoying the benefits. So I always found it funny that the Native Americans pushed us out, but we weren't the ones rigging the system. But anyway, but like I said, as a person of actually, let me rephrase that. Basically, black people, I need us to understand, it's beautiful to be everything you are. Embrace all the sides that you are. That's a beautiful thing. But don't downgrade and repress your black side to make you feel that you have elevated yourself, because you haven't. Because like I said, society operates on what they see. So if you appear and you look the role, you go into the black category. And this leads into a conversation where we have to talk about the difference between ethnicity, race, and nationality, because that's where Bow Wow was confused. And that's where a lot of people are confused. The thing is, when we talk about the three, there are some major differences. And this is triggered because I got in this really good argument with somebody who's from the Dominican Republic. I mean, they were mad because I told them that they were black, and they wanted to fight me. I mean, they really were about to fight for real. Like, we were really about to go toe-to-toe over this. Because they were like, I'm not black, I'm Dominican, I'm Dominican, I'm Dominican. I'm like, that's beautiful, but Dominican is a nationality. And so here's the thing, nationality is not a race. Nationality just means that there's a border drawn. Nationality is basically a group of people who share a same political space, meaning there's a border drawn, and maybe there's a shared language and some shared customs and traits, but it has nothing to do with the physical. It's nothing to do with the phenotype, nothing to do with the hair texture, nothing to do with the skin tone, nothing to do with the body type, nothing to do with any of that. Just the cultural shared experience and what is drawn within that border. So if you look at like the continent of Africa, like I said, Berlin Conference of 1884, they decided we're going to take this whole continent that used to just be a continent of people living within their tribal groups and enjoying their lives and themselves and their time unbothered. They said, nope, we decided y'all got some resources and we want them, so we're going to draw borders and make all these different countries, and you guys all of a sudden are a bunch of different nationalities. So whether or not you get along, we're going to put you in a border, and also we're going to exploit you and take all the resources, and then when you fight for your independence, we'll leave you destitute with nothing. And so when you look at a lot of the issues that are going on the continent of Africa with the people having all kinds of civil wars, that's because you've drawn people into a border that didn't originally live together. But anyway, so that's nationality. Nationality deals with like language and different things like that. And so then you get into the element of ethnicity. And ethnicity and race, some people think are interchangeable, but they're not quite interchangeable. And this is why. To be honest, race, there's literally 3 races on the planet. White, black, Asian. There's more better scientific terms, but I'm just going to use the ones that we know how to speak. And then from there are additional races that I would like to consider. I don't like to say sub because that always makes it sound like everything else is superior. So I'm going to say are expansions or offspring of those races. So when you talk about like Australian, and I'm not talking about white Australian, Britain came and took over. I'm talking about those who are like Tasmanian or Aborigines. You know, those are the descendants of black Africans and Asians. And then in addition, if you talk about people who are like from like Oceania and everything, like Samoans and Polynesians, all those kind of fall into that Australian race, but that's kind of an expansion of the Asian and African race. So when we talk about something like Latino, because people are always like, Latino's a race. I'm like, Latino's not really a race. Sorry, it's not. It's not. And the reason why is because Latino is more so associated with region and language. And so basically, the entire southern half of the Western Hemisphere is that region where you had a huge collective of people who, one, are mainly the descendants of slaves, but the thing that they shared in common was the language of Spanish, which is the offspring of the Latin language, which is now dead. And so that high concentration of the Spanish language in that region kind of somehow people started associating that as a group of people and started calling them Latino. But the issue with that is you can't really always associate Latino with Spanish speaking, because if you look at something like Brazil and Belize, they speak Portuguese and English there. So that's why you have the whole confusion about Hispanic and Latino. Hispanic is more so talking about Spanish speaking people. Latino is supposed to be the ethnicity. You know what I mean? So ethnicity meaning there's a shared culture and language, and there's a few things that are shared as far as like phenotypes and all, but it's not an actual race, because Latino has a bunch of different looks. You know what I mean? So Latino, you can have somebody like a Zoe Saldana from Avatar, or you can have somebody like a Mark Anthony, or you can have somebody like Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio. You see what I mean? They look extremely different because the phenotypes are all different. So that's why Latino is not technically an actual race. It's more of a combination of nationality and ethnicity, and it's a regional thing. So going back to my friend who was from the DR, he was really fighting me about this whole I'm Dominican, I'm not black. And the reason why I think people associate that as a bad thing as far as black is because the term of black, when it deals with the United States, is a little bit different than everywhere else, because people look at the term of black in the United States as a social construct, like a socially constructed group of people who are created to help push the idea of capitalism in the United States. So you see us, me as a black American, as a group of marginalized people who, one, we were slaves, and then we never quite were able to get our own piece of land in our own country, our own anything. A lot of the other people in the diaspora were able to get that. So if you look at a place like Haiti or the Dominican Republic, they're able, or let's stick with Haiti for now. Haiti was able to get their independence from France and basically have their own actual country. So even though they're still technically African and they're also black, the nationality Haitian has now been created. It doesn't make a difference as far as the phenotype, as far as the bloodline. We got the same genetics. Me and a Haitian person got everything is pretty much the same in the bloodline. But that nationality is what gives them that pride, is okay, we're Haitian. So nationality is what that is. Same thing with a lot of the other countries. A lot of countries in the Caribbean and in Latin and South America, because they're a majority black and brown populations, they're able to govern themselves after they gained independence and everything like that. Black Americans, you know, we were brought over into a country, and even though slavery ended, we never quite actually got an independence because we never became our own sovereign nation. We actually became indoctrinated within a nation that was already established, and we just had to follow the rules that they had. So people look at that, and they look at how we're marginalized and treated. They don't want to be associated with that. So when you tell people that they're black, they get pissed off. So the element of black when it comes to the experience of black Americans is weird, because it's kind of a nationality and an ethnicity and a race at the same time. It's a mix of a bunch of different things. So people are like, But anyway, let me stay on track here. So yes, Bow Wow needs to take a lesson in the difference between the three and recognize that, sorry Bow Wow, you're black. Society sees you as black. Even though you may be 0.02 whatever percent Native American, which I honestly don't believe. You're black. Society's going to treat you like you're black. When you get pulled over, they don't see, oh, wait, don't beat him up. He's 0.2% Native American. Don't beat him up. And so it's always funny. So going back to this nationality thing, I always laugh when people are like, well, you know, I'm not just black, because I also have Polish and French and German and Austrian and Italian in my family. I'm like, okay, so black White, 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 and white. That's what you're saying. Okay, cool. So that's what you're mixed with. Great. Thanks for sharing. And I mean, they get pissed. And I'm like, listen, once again, when we talk about nationality, if I go to Germany and France, which border each other, there's not really a difference phonetically between German and French people when you look at them, when you look at their hair types, when you look at the skin tone. Like, there's not really a difference because there's nothing else in their bloodline except for the white race. So I always have to explain to people, like, learn the difference between the three so you're not always making a fool of yourself. It's cool if you want to embrace everything, but the problem is people embrace additional cultures and races or nationalities, and they try to use that to elevate themselves from being black, because in reality, nobody in this world wants to be black. I mean, I love every element of being black. I ain't trying to be nothing else but black. But, yeah, so I just find that entertaining. And another thing with the whole Native American thing, what I always found funny, everybody who's always claiming to be Native American, you notice that there's never a lot of evidence. You know, it's always, oh, it was my great uncle's second cousin's daughter in our family who's Native American. It's always just one person in the family who's Native American. And there's never any pictures of the person. That person never had any siblings or kids or cousins or anything. And there's never the mixed blended family. It was just that one person, and somehow they had such a strong lineage. It just traveled into all of the elements of the family, and everybody was like, I got a piece of what they got. I'm Native American. And I'm like, how come these people ain't never had no kids? How come there's never... You know, you would think that there'd be like a family reunion, and when you get to the family reunion, you're gonna see a whole bunch of Native Americans sitting at the table. And I mean, they on the grill doing the ribs too with Uncle Tony. You know, you don't ever see none of that. So I'm like, wait a minute. And so, and then they would say, oh well, no, because she used to wear the two braids. What? Y'all in this Disney Channel depiction of what you think Native Americans are? Oh well, no, because she used to make dream catchers too. Go ahead and tell me what tribe made the dream catchers, since you just think all of them made dream catchers. Go ahead and let me know. Was it the Alaskan Native? Was it that group? Go ahead and let me know. And so that's the other thing. We always do that when it comes to the texture of our hair as well. If anybody has a unique texture of hair, automatically, well, you know, my great second cousins, uncles, mothers, daughters, sisters, little brother was Cherokee, so that's why my hair is the way it is. And I'm like, this, again, people research. You can go right into any of the 5 regions in Africa, and you can find people who look just like me, same phenotype, everything. And the difference is, they have hair just like the Native Americans. I mean, it blows in the... You think Beyonce doing something with that fan, you go right over there to Angola, go right over there to Cameroon, go right over there to Malawi, go right over there to, a bunch of Burundi, any of these places, and you can find people who have all kind of different textures of hair. But we've been taught, and in our history books, they've told us that black people can only have one texture of hair. If you have anything other than that, you're mixed with something, and that's not the case. So just because you have a really nice texture of hair, which all textures of hair are wonderful, they're all nice, I enjoy mine. It's a little curly today, it's kind of dreading and doing its own thing, and I don't know what to do with it, so I've just kind of been waking up and going with the flow, and just putting some juices and berries in it. But like I said, you can have different textures of hair and still be basically 100% African without any other nationalities, because Africa is one of the most diverse continents on the planet when it comes to phenotypes, but people don't do that research, and they assume that in order to look exotic or look like you're from something else, you have to have some Asian in you, you have to have Latino in you, you have to have something else in order to appear to not just be the standard, element that we've been given as far as black people. So people have to kind of learn that. And that's why I say, when you are of multiple backgrounds, embrace all of them. That's a beautiful thing. Embrace them all. I love that A. Marie is Korean and black, and she embraces both sides. She's like, and the thing is, when you're trying to let people know that you are more than one race, rather than say, I'm not just this, why don't you just say, in addition to being black, I'm also this. And I'd like to share this with that, and I'd like you to respect both of my cultures, please. Cool, I got you. But when you start saying, I ain't no black, I'm this. Okay, hold up, pause for the cause, because now I got to tell you about yourself. But no, I like A. Marie, because A. Marie is both. And what I found funny is she's never been one to say, I'm not this, I'm Korean, respect my culture. She's kind of like, I'm both. And not only that, she'll go to her, I saw a concert clip one time, she did a whole concert in Korean and then started speaking in Korean. Oh, all right. And then as soon as it was over, she went right back, she flew right back to the United States and went right on 106 in Park and keep on I said, all right, Marie, she know what's up. See, when you get the best of both worlds, you use them to your advantage. But a lot of people like to repress one side to uplift the other, and they end up looking stupid. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. I've ventured so far off this, but some of y'all just need to be educated today, and that's okay. I felt like I needed to do that. Anyway, subscribe, share your 2 cents. like I said, embrace who you are. If you have a bunch of different things in your bloodline, that's beautiful. And I always have to tell black people anyway, a lot of us have a lot of stuff in our bloodlines because of the, the establishment of slavery. We got all kind of different elements of white in our bloodline as far as like French and Spanish and British and all that other stuff, but it's all still white. Anyway, I'm out. Subscribe, share your 2 cents.